This is Papa Smurf. You're listening to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, with ODB and the mayor.
You're listening to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, brought to you by Custom Car Show Productions, which includes Orange Beach Invasion, Scraping the Coast, Sicknick, and Slamber Party. Make sure you search on Facebook Scraping the Coast Show on Instagram. Also, Sparkles Detail. Till Tim and Tanya, ODB and the mayor sent you. We out here. Peace.
Yeah. Thank you. Far too kind. Yeah. Ready? Let's go. Can I get an encore? Do you want more? Cook and roll with the Brooklyn boys. So for one last time, I need y'all to roll. Yeah. Now what the hell are you waiting for? After me, there should be no more. So for one last time, nigga, make some noise.
Yo, it's Our Lifestyle, the podcast, episode 77. You heard that right, y'all. Carrie Bewley. This one's going to be one for the ages. But first, this episode is brought to you by Sicknick, August 25th and 26th at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center, sponsored by Sparkles Detail. Make sure when you go to Sicknick, you have Sparkles Detail. Not only detail the vehicle, but buy some Croftgate products. Also, follow Scraping the Coast Show on Instagram for more information. But next, we got Miggity Mike, the mayor, in the house. What's going down?
ODB. Just another beautiful day in paradise down here in good old Southwest Florida. We've had plenty of rain down here, so the grass is green and the lakes are nice and full. But it's awesome to be on here with you and Airhead Nation. You absolutely killed it last week with you and Mike Finnegan. Dude, that was an awesome interview. Mad props. And thanks, Mike, for coming on and doing this thing, telling a story. It was good listen. That's for damn sure.
Hells to the yeah, my man. Appreciate the props. Love doing the interviews. You're right. I mentioned on the last episode, it was epic. Appreciate all the listens on episode 76. That's that shorter bi-weekly episode that we squeeze in on Mondays. This one went off a little bit better than the last week, the last 2 weeks before, I should say, because, we had it pretty much ready to go. It launched in the morning, which is great because you got a lot of people going back to work from the weekend, so they get a chance to sit down, depending on the type of job they have, and listen. So that was good. We're seeing good numbers on the shorter episode, and as Mike, you mentioned to me on Monday evening that there was a lot of Mini Truckin' Monday being spun around there on the interwebs.
Yes, there was. That good old book face. There was a lot of Mini Truckin' Mondays flying around, and it was cool. It was cool to see, and we love doing this, guys, and we hope you guys are enjoying it. And if you guys are enjoying it, please share it with your friends, your club mates. While you guys are in the garage, I'm deliver mail, so I'm always listening to the podcast in the damn mail truck. So hey, share it. And all you guys that are always out there listening and always sharing, we got Ruben out there that's always supporting. And I know I'm going to forget some names, so don't be upset, but I see Chris out there all the time. We see our boy Tyler out there sharing it all the time. Freaking Ron, Mr. Perkins, freaking All Time Low, always sharing it. So I just want to say thank you to you guys for sharing it. And listening, and we love doing this, guys. So let's just keep going. Let's keep showing and growing.
Yeah, man, I like that. Well, speaking of showing and growing, I mentioned last week that HammerDWeekendWear had broke the all-time pre-order sales record with the Beauty and the Beast t-shirt. Awesome artwork. And I forgot to mention that OLP is tied in on that artwork on the license plate for Kate Simpson's Toyota. It's a nice little nod, so thank you so much, Ron Perkins at HammerDWeekendWear.com. But also, Mike, earlier this week, the homie, Rich, and the homegirl, Beth Waterman at All Time Low magazine, they shared that they sold out of the June 2018 issue. I forget exactly how he put it, but I think it was the quickest sellout of an issue that they ever had. And if you think about it, we're teamed up with both. We're aligned very, precisely with them, and it's great to be aligned with other people that have goals like we do to kind of further the scene and bring some great content and some great clothing with Hammered Weekend Wear.
Dude, you are not lying. I actually messaged, Ron and Rich both, and just said congratulations on both you guys' achievements, and I'm just so glad that we are teamed up with such good people and like-minded people, and it's just nothing but big things for the rest of the year and for the years coming, for sure. All Time Low magazine. I think it might have been the guys. I think that was your first feature that you shot. That was on the cover, and I think that had something to do with it, Jay. I think the truth is you bought out every one of those damn magazines just so you made sure that.
I like that.
So Rich knew we got to put more Lincolns on the covers, and But I tell you what, guys, stay tuned because Mr. Ron Perkins, Mr. Hammered Weekend Wear, has got a lot more up his sleeve. Obviously, we've been told some things and some shirts that are coming, and we got some cool shit coming, guys. So y'all definitely stay tuned and get ready, and make sure y'all get those pre-orders in and save yourself $5, because these next couple shirts that are coming out are going to be badass.
That they are, and I always appreciate, I know you do as well, Mike, when the Airhead Nation, they go out and support those that are supporting us. They will tag us or mention us in the notes or in the comments on Instagram of a purchase, whether it be Hammered Weekend Wear or it be All Time Low magazine. Boom, it's right there, and they tag us, and we see it, and we appreciate that. I know, many of you guys, we're always kind of waiting for our paychecks and things like that. So, save up a couple extra bucks. And as Mike mentioned, if there's a pre-order, you can get in, you can save an extra $5. So that kind of, maybe you buy a couple shirts, you save, 10, 15, then you can sling it for something else on the site. It's always good times, Mike, when you're purchasing through good people and you're supporting the scene.
Hell yeah, because hashtag real builds, baby.
You know it. So, Mike, the scene updates, this one's going to be kind of brief, but I wanted to start first and say it's our 3rd anniversary. We just hit, earlier this week, the 1st of August, and this is like our anniversary month because of the show that we go to and support the local scene every year. And, Mike, it's been, gosh, I guess depends on who's scoring at home, 36 months of doing this, and this is our most successful year so far.
I don't know how you rate success, but it's one of those things that, we talked about Hammered Weekend Wear and selling his shirts. Well, we put out our first shirt, and we did pretty damn well for our first shirt, and we just got done, did the pre-order for our hats, and definitely want to thank all those Airhead Nation guys and gals out there that ordered hats and shirts. And we have a few more shirts left, so just hit us up if you're interested. But, dude, social media, I love going on my timeline and seeing Airhead Nation this, Airhead Nation that, freaking Mini Truckin' Monday. It's OLP Friday. We got to come up with a good name. So all you guys that listen, let's come up with a good name for Fridays, because Jay's always pumping it out and putting it out there on Fridays. So we got to come up with something good for OLP Fridays, because you know what day it is. You know what time it is when it's Friday and OLP. So we got to come up with a good name for OLP Fridays. I don't know if that'll stick, but we got to come up with something.
Yeah, we do, brother. Speaking of coming up with something, we're kind of in the brainstorm mode of, do we go with a Facebook store? Maybe a lot of guys, especially the homie Big Juice, they use Big Cartel. So, Big Cartel is an option for us on our Facebook page to make it easy to do business with us. That's what we want to do. I'm also looking at maybe kind of refreshing the website. A lot of different themes out there that we could go with. But really, the name of the game is that when we have another pre-order, whether it be a shirt or hat, that it's just simple. I know this last couple times, which it worked well. We had folks like, have to PayPal us the money and things. So just know that we're going to try to make things easier. We have about 6 or 7 items right now that we think that we could drop. Not all at once, but, we've got a couple shirts that are already been designed. We've got a couple others that are in the works. So what we want to do is kind of gauge the interest. And, hey, we know there's a lot of different product out there. But what's important is that we stick to our roots. We're going to have some really cool mini trucking stuff come out the next, few months before Christmas for sure. And we kind of feel like the Airhead Nation has really gotten behind this the last 36 months to support us. And, we're continuing to give away a great, well-produced podcast, and that's what it's all about, Mike.
Hell yeah, brother. Just like you said, couldn't have said it any better. I kind of like that word, word to your mother.
Yeah,
and, hint, hint. But you guys will figure that one out soon enough. Don't worry. But it sucks, knowing shit and you can't really say it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there you go, man.
But nah, on a for real, dude, you are definitely killing it when it comes to producing this thing and putting this out. And definitely want to give mad shout out because you talked about doing shout outs and giving shout outs. But Chris Burns, man, the photos, props to the Relaxed guys out there last weekend for Relaxed. The show, The Awakening, dude, was awesome. Looked like great weather. Looked like, some badass vehicles actually showed up, and they had a killer time out there.
They did, and I saw the snow lift that he talked about when we had the homie on, and I guess they didn't have to use that at all in the dead of the summer. I know there was even a heat wave. There's been a lot of wildfires out in California, really on the West Coast. I saw some staggering numbers, man, about how many acres are being burned. I think they said in California there's a section that's burning that's the size of Denver. I think it was like 150 square miles. I mean, it's just insane. But to all the firefighters, if anybody's out there, the family members, we know our homie Ronnie. He's, a firefighter in Arizona, but that stuff is no joke. So, I don't know how I got on that, but I know the West Coast has been a little crazy. I know it's been warm. And for anybody that went to Relax It in the Northwest, The Awakening, we hope that you guys enjoyed it and had a good time. Yeah,
no shit, because from the pictures Chris sent in, it looked like it was a killer-ass time out there for sure. And talking about Chris, and man, I brought up his name awful lot tonight, just scrolling through Facebook, and it looks like Chris might have made that jump to where Chris has went full-time in the shop now. And if that's the case, Chris, fucking mad props, dude. Congratulations and the best of luck. Hopefully I seen that right.
Hells to the yeah, man. Well, speaking of updates, I was on Instagram just a bit ago, and Dave Schulman, the man from Acrophobia that owns Crew Cut, he was breaking the interwebs earlier this week. With that photo that he posted with the famous newer dually, the Ford, next to Crew Cut. Pretty cool. I know Big Juice reshared that. But just a few hours ago, he shared that he has a new vanity plate coming for Crew Cut, and it's a very fitting mic. It's KREW. KUT. So, surprise, surprise, as Dave said. If we haven't mentioned this, we are going to hopefully have Dave on very soon. Dave has been in the scene a long time, and we look forward to that. I know that he's really kind of going hard in the paint lately with some of these builds that he's been able to acquire and some of the ones that he's been able to finish and build. Pretty cool shit.
Fuck yeah, it is. And I think what's really cool is the fact that he's right here in Florida, and we get to see it. So that's really damn cool.
Hells to the yeah, brother. And I'm sure, I'm hoping, and I know this is on our docket here to talk about, so I'll bring it up now. The Orlando Memorial Cruise. I know last year, Mike, the rain was kind of tough. You rolled in with Big John Lopez, the big homie of yours, and the rain was a little tough. We still had a good time. Hopefully this year it'll be good weather and we'll get to see some of those badass acrophobia rides out there. It's always good times. But Mike, I wanted to see, I didn't want to steal your thunder there. Anything else you wanted to share with the crews?
Well, definitely mad props to Tony, because Tony, puts us on every year. And but it's going to be August 11th, next Saturday. It starts at 6 to close, and it's there at the Ace Cafe. And if you go to the event page, you can find and you can see the map that they have there, and it shows you where spectator parking is, where the cruise vehicles are going to be able to park, and which ways the which way to enter, which way to exit, and so on and so forth. But definitely, if you guys can make it out there, that Ace Cafe is a pretty cool place. Got some really good food, got some nice cold beer, and once again, I'll be cruising up. Me and the missus will be cruising up with Big John and his wife Kim, and I think Daniel, my road dog, is going to be joining us as well. So definitely always look forward to going up there and seeing everybody.
Yeah, brother, and don't forget, I think you say his name, Bill Gurley, Gurley. What a good dude. I know that Bill teams up with Tony, and both good people. They love that we can come out there. That's our really anniversary date. Not Mike, not that way, but you know what I mean, of the podcast. And his own Mizzo. Not that there's anything wrong with that, as Seinfeld would say, right? For all you Seinfeld fans. But the other good thing is, you kind of mentioned, I kind of remember getting there last year. It was a lot of traffic, kind of getting into Orlando. I'm going to go out a little earlier this year, but it's right off, if I remember correctly, like I-4 is kind of behind you right there, or one of the main kind of deals. I'm pretty sure it's I-4, and it's right there. You got plenty of good parking. We brought out a bunch of BMX bikes. That may be the plan again this year. My convertible isn't exactly where I wanted it to be able to drive the hour and a half or so. So I'm going to probably wait maybe till Slam Fest. We'll see. But I think that it's easy to get into. It's an awesome facility. They treated us really well last year. And I'm super looking forward to Ace Cafe here in just over a week, Mike.
Absolutely, brother. And I always look forward to, because, dude, pretty much all of Florida comes out there and hangs out, and it's good to see everybody. Definitely, guys, make sure you guys are out there to support these guys. The Orlando Memorial Cruise, August 11th, 6 to close at the Ace Cafe in Orlando.
Yes, sir. Well, Mike, the other thing I was going to say is what we'll probably do is we'll hold off for our next episode to talk about additional shows. We're going to try to keep this audio a little short and tight, only because we've got an hour and a half awesome interview with the homie Carrie Bewley. How's that sound, Mike?
Hey, the only thing I want to say is everybody heading out to Slamboree this weekend. Y'all guys be safe, and definitely check out on your road trip to Slamboree in Oklahoma. Definitely check out and listen to episode 77 on your way out there.
Hails to the yeah. So, kind of parting words, Mike. Great shout out there. We'll try to maybe do a little bit more tie-in after that show is going to be the goal. So good stuff. Also, for all you hip-hop fans out there, 23 years ago today, Raekwon dropped Only Built for Cuban Links, arguably one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time. So have to give a shout out there. And then really the last few things, please and thank you for those that listen to Lincoln Addict. Seen some great numbers. It's been less than a week, and it's a lot of fun. Even Ruben gave me a shout-out earlier, so that was pretty cool. And it was kind of cool to talk a little bit about something that I enjoy just as much as Mini Trucks. Maybe not as much as Mini Trucks, but I definitely enjoy those, the Lincolns, as you know, Mike.
Hell yeah, you do, brother. And you do a great job with it. And I do apologize because I didn't share the fact that I did listen to your first episode. And dude, it's passion, brother. I can hear it in your voice when you're talking about your link. And you keep doing your thing. That's for damn sure.
That's how we do, man. So last but not least, continue, as Mike mentioned earlier, sharing, but rate the podcast through Apple Podcasts app or iTunes. If you see us at a show, let me know. If you need help, we'll show you how to get in there. Hopefully it's a 5-star rating. That's all we get, so we appreciate that. Check out Cars and Caffeine podcast. Wanted to give a shout to those guys. They Follow us on Instagram as well. Just type in Cars and Caffeine all together. If you like kind of a little bit of a rowdy bunch, a couple of good guys, you'll enjoy that one. So thanks. They're going to give us a shout out, and we appreciate it. And then today we hit 6,650 Instagram followers. That's today. Here on Our Lifestyle, the podcast, August 1st. So just want to say thanks. We're trying to get to 10K. Then we have a little bit additional features that kick in that we can kind of use on our story mode. So do us a favor, share it. You can click the little airplane looking icon, paper plane deal, and you can, share the profile. You can click the triple dots in the upper right corner and I think hit share profile and send it to all your homies or chicas. So, we appreciate that. We're going to keep growing this thing of ours. You know how we do, because we're all about the scene of ours. You know what I mean, Mike? So with that being said, brother.
Hey, with that being said, Airhead Nation.
Cheer. Peace out, y'all. Yo. So before we roll into Carrie Bewley's interview, I want to give a huge shout out, as we mentioned, Scraping the Coast Show on Instagram. Also, there you will find additional information on Sick Nick. You are not going to want to miss Sick Nick this year. SparklesDetail.com. Order some new Croftgate products on their site. Also, link up with them at Sick Nick. Have them detail your ride or pick up the product on site. HammerDWeekendWear. That's HAMMERD weekendwear.com. Order some gear. Also, make sure you check in the clearance section. All Time Low Magazine. That's ATLmagazine.com. Order that summer 2018 issue. Also, subscribe while you're there. That means that it will automatically be sent out each issue whenever the new issue drops. ViAir Corp, thanks for the continued support, Morgan and the whole team at ViAir. And Grinder-TV.com. Big ups to Brian Good for the continued badass videos that he posts on YouTube. Make sure you're in the Grinder TV Facebook group. Also, make sure you're subscribing, as I mentioned, on YouTube. Appreciate y'all as we roll in to Carrie Bewley's interview. We out here.
Who you know fresher than whole? Riddle me that. The rest of y'all know where I'm lyrically at. Can none of y'all mirror me back? Yeah, hear me rap, it's like hand G rapping his prime. I'm young H.O., raps Grateful Dead. Back to take over the globe, now break bread. I'm in Boeing Jets, Global Express. Out the country, but the blueberries still connect. On the low, but the yacht got a triple
Yo.
deck.
It's Our Lifestyle, the podcast. Episode, I think we're going to be on 77 when this one drops. And as I mentioned with Miggity Mike the Mayor and I a little bit earlier, we've got a special guest, Carrie Bewley. What's going down, homie?
How you doing, man?
Hey, everything is good. How is everything up there in Indiana right now?
Well, it is hot. Very hot here in Indiana, but, we're hanging in there. It's not no fun for a fat guy, that's for sure, but, we're making it.
Hey, listen, for anyone that knows the name from all these years of the mini trucking scene, the full-size scene, Carrie Bewley is someone that I started following over the past year or so on Instagram, and I saw this cool story. We're going to tell everyone about it. I know you're super stoked, Carrie.
Man, it's going to be tough for me to put it into words. The excitement and the way I feel, I still haven't wrapped my mind totally around this whole thing, but I've been enjoying the hell out of it.
Well, I tell you what, it's going to be a nice little tease right there for everyone because they're scratching their heads. Some know, some don't. But, Carrie Bewley, you ran a company back in the day, and, just
yes.
Can you kind of give us a little bit of the update? Well, not the update, but could you give us a little bit of insight into that business that you ran? And then, I'll kind of kick off some of the questions I have for you.
All right, cool. Back in the day, had a shop called Bewley's Body Works. We were in Brownsburg, Indiana, and honestly, I was just in a little building with my uncle and my dad. They had been doing body work ever since I was born. They were in the body shop business.
Okay.
And when I was a sophomore in high school, I started taking it real serious. So we just built a lot of mini trucks. We started getting into, the body drop, the air ride stuff. I actually had met up with Sean Mahaney back in the day and flew out there and spent some time with him trying to hire him to come work for me. And actually, he was on the hook, but then he started realizing what the weather patterns were like in Indiana.
He's like, snow? No way.
Yeah, snow and negative wind chills, and so that's how I had met Sean, honestly, back in the day. I miss him dearly. But yeah, that was how I tried to hire him to come work for me in Indiana. And that's where the business really started taking off, because we were starting to do a lot of things in California. Todd Wilt and I would fly to California and see different trends and pick up on things and come back home and say, well, we can do that. So that's what led into this.
It's sick. And, as you alluded, rest in peace, Sean Mahaney. We've got that hashtag RIP Sean Mahaney. And, we send a lot of love to the Mahaney family. I love I love the tie-in. So, you have this company, Bewley's Body Works. And,
yes.
I remember seeing all the mini trucking features and things like that. We'll talk about some of them. But if we then start there and we rewind a little bit, so you kind of mentioned your father, your grandfather. How did you get involved, and maybe what age did you know that you were bit by this whole automotive scene, man?
Well, the crazy thing is I didn't know any different. Ever since I was born, they were in the body shop business, painted semis. I got pictures of me 7, 8 years old on top of a semi-trailer taping the lights up.
Wow.
Then I raced go-karts professionally from the time I was 5 till I was 21. And my deal was I come home, work on the go-karts, get that stuff ready, and then I had to work out in the shop because my dad and uncle were working 2 jobs to get a business going. And at that time, they were painting semis downtown Indianapolis and had a shop at my dad's house. And the shop they were painting semis at burnt down. So they had no other option but kick this thing in high gear. I got pictures of Tony Bentonhausen, or one of the Bentonhausen's Indy cars, in my side garage at my parents' house in the 80s. That we were sanding to get ready. So ever since then, with the racing theme, of go-karts, all that, and then my dad and uncle doing the body shop stuff, I just didn't know anything different. I never thought about doing anything else.
Amazing. And it sounded like your father and your grandfather, they're hardworking Americans. They put their boots on every day, and they were hustlers, man.
Oh, yeah. And my uncle was actually the partner with my dad and me for a very long time. And that is the one thing all we know is hard work. I'm not from a rich family. We had to bust our ass. If we wanted something, we had to go after it.
Totally got it. So, going back to Bewley's Body Works, when we talked the other day, you kind of gave me some insight into, this company started kind of small, as many companies do, and it grows with time, especially the economy booming. Mini trucking was, I sometimes kind of say, in its heyday, all-time height. You had lots of guys,
yes.
Especially, we went to Indy Truck Bash a few years, had plenty of sick, clean rides up in that area. So tell us a little bit about kind of how the business grew and then maybe what it came to.
Yeah, it started basically, like I said, my uncle, my dad, and I, and then as things grew, we got more employees and started gearing towards the custom stuff because it started to come around. I was really, into mini trucking magazines way back in the day, way before I could drive. I mean, my first truck was an 81 Chevy Love that was lowered with with steel chrome saw blade wheels on it.
Hells yeah, man.
So I had that built when I was 14, waiting for my driver's license.
Dang, man.
So 5 days after I got my driver's license, a deer jumped out in front of me, hit me in the A-pillar of the windshield, and totaled the truck.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah. So anyway, the business evolved over time, and we moved into a building, and it got bigger, and then that point, we only stayed in that building for 1 year because we outgrew it so fast. So in the early 2000s, I moved into a building that was a old Ford dealership.
Okay.
So I had 100,000 square feet, a 10 to 15,000 square foot all glass showroom. And I was 1 mile from the main gate of Indianapolis Raceway Park.
Damn.
On the same road. So if you came in off the interstate, you had to pass my building.
Amazing.
So we had really nice facility. I mean, the showroom was all black carpet. So we did everything in-house. At that point, we grew to 30 employees.
So you and at this point, you know, a lot of people are going, man, yeah, I remember the name, or they know you as a friend, family member. You got plenty of those folks out there listening. You know, we're chopping up with Carrie Bewley. When I imagine and think back to that time, I went to Indy Truck Bash, like, I want to say 2001, 2002, or 02, 03.
Yep.
You know, so many nice, clean trucks, finished trucks. That's what I always remember from up there. So, you know, you just got to be like turning out work. I mean, to have a facility that big, just tons of product that you're putting out.
Yeah, and at that point, when we got that big, it wasn't just mini trucks. We got into the hot rods and the customs and, honestly, a lot of Indy cars and NHRA cars. I was painting Schumacher's Top Fuel cars, funny cars, pro stock motorcycles, the Army team, the Valvoline, MTS. We did some for Pedregon. We'd worked on Antron Brown's personal cars, Vance and Hines, Andrew Hines' stuff. It got to be, because what happened is that where my building was a cornfield behind me. Well, now that is known as Nitro Alley. Don Schumacher, John Force, Vance Hines, all those people have built buildings behind the building I was in. And that's where all the race teams are. Well, they all had to cut that road in while I was there in business, and they all built their buildings and moved in. So every one of those race teams some of them have over 100 employees. Well, they all are in town too. So all those people started stopping by. I mean, Schumacher would give me Ron Capps' funny car to put on the showroom floor for display. Like, I would have the good guys kickoff party there.
Damn, dude.
So we had huge displays, huge building.
Yeah, and so you're painting some of these badass vehicles, right? Not just mini trucks. You had
we're doing everything.
Yeah, you're doing everything. You had to have some really good success. You know, what kind of stories do you have as far as maybe some of those top names out there that you even competed against in terms of the paint work that you guys were putting out?
Well, one that comes to mind is when we did a NHRA funny car for Bob Gilbertson, and we debuted it at the U.S. Nationals, and it was a Jungle Jim tribute car. And we did that car all paint. All the lettering, everything. It even have a face of Jungle Jim on the front of it, and we even gave him a gold leaf tooth. So even taillights, headlights, everything. Well, at that time, Chip Foose was sponsoring Coletta's Top Fuel car, and they debuted a one-off paint job for the shoes and stuff that Chip was coming out with Oakley that had the palm trees and everything on it. Well, at the U.S. Nationals in Indy, Coletta's Top Fuel car and the funny car for Gilbertson that I painted were up for Best Appearing Car, and I ended up winning Best Appearing Car at the U.S. Nationals that year. And for a guy in the middle of Indiana, it's pretty amazing to be able to sit in a chair next to Chip Foose, let alone to have him shake your hand and tell you good job.
Dude, insane. I mean, really, I mean that. So
it's nuts.
Yeah, it is nuts, and you're putting out all this product. There's obviously you're putting a lot of time and effort into customer cars and things like that. So one of the things I wanted to kind of jump to was you built this, what I'll call famous, and I'm not even going to call it a mini truck. It was a full-size truck back in the mid-'90s, and you reminded me that it went to SEMA back in the day. Tell us a little bit about how Project Indy kind of came about.
Well, the way that came about was I helped do work on the American Sport Truck Association truck that went to SEMA in 1995. And that was interesting learning how SEMA worked and all that. In 94, my uncle and I had taken an Indy car for Firestone out to SEMA and put on display. So that was my first time ever going to SEMA.
Okay.
So then in 95, I get involved in this ASTA truck, and I'm like, man, I want to get a vehicle at SEMA. This is just the coolest thing I've ever seen. So I start kind of poking around, getting some ideas from this ASTA truck and how things work. So I went to a local dealer here in Indianapolis, and I leased a brand new '96 Chevy extended cab, half ton, 2-wheel drive.
Okay.
And yes, I leased it. I drove it straight from the dealership to my shop, and we tore it apart with 80 miles on it, and we built Project Indy.
Damn.
And we built that from, I bought the truck in, I think like September of 95. And we debuted it at the American Sport Truck Association show in Richmond, Indiana in 96.
Okay.
And I think that was in, I want to say like August maybe.
Okay.
So from there, that truck literally was painted in 24 hours. We cleared it at 7 a.m, and at noon we started hanging parts on it. We didn't have a big booth back then or nothing. It's just air drying.
Mm-hmm.
Threw all the parts on it, and I drove it to Richmond, Indiana with the clear still drying. And that's the one thing that everybody remembers from that truck and that show is they could smell clear from about 30 feet away the whole weekend.
Damn, man. Yeah, so it was like a lot of hours, quick turnaround time, but you guys are going to hear that it stood the test of time, right? So you build this cool truck. Tell us a little bit about when it appeared on the cover of Truckin magazine. And remind me, was that what month and year was that?
It was on the cover of May of 97 Truckin', and the first time it was at SEMA was SEMA 96. So I debuted it at Richmond, and then boom, immediately it went to SEMA, and they shot the cover shoot there at SEMA, but they wanted to wait and put it on the May cover because of the Indy theme, the Indy 500 theme, Project Indy, all that. It was fitting for the month of May. So that's why it was on the May 97 issue.
Got it. So you basically, you have much success with this truck. Obviously, it's a cover truck, a lot of success. Do you enjoy it a few years before the story starts where we start to say, hey, that you sell it? So, like, what was it like between all that success and then the point that you decided to let it go?
Well, so we get back from SEMA 96, 97 I show it, 98 I show it, 99 it goes back to SEMA again. And this time it's in the MTX booth. And then when I get back from SEMA, a friend of mine, he's really wanting the truck. So in late 2000, I sell the truck.
Okay.
And I regret selling it. Ever since the day I sold it, I've regret selling it.
Okay.
6 months later, he decides he wants to sell it back to me.
Really?
This is probably part of the story you don't know.
Okay.
He wanted to sell it back to me, so because I had built an Excursion that was at SEMA on the Ford program. It was lime green with a big orange tribal down the side of it.
Okay.
He really wanted that truck, so he traded me Project Indy back and some money for that Excursion. So I get Project Indy back. I have it for a few more months. A guy in Missouri wants it.
Okay.
So I sell it to this guy in Missouri. And that is the last time I seen it. And that was in late 2000.
So 2000, you sell the truck, and so we're basically, hey, let's just call it 18 years later. So
yeah, exactly.
That's before. I mean, think about it. It's mind-blowing for me to even think back to 2000 because, I mean, we just had our first computer. I was fresh out of high school a couple years before that, and there was the email, but there was still no MySpace. There was no social media was just kind of picking up and that type of thing. So off and on from 2000 for these 18 years. How often do you maybe kind of search for the truck, maybe ask around, and then as Facebook picks up, tell us a little bit about how you would sometimes ask about it?
Well, what was really funny is over the years, as I closed the business, I stepped away I've been away from the truck scene and all that for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But anytime I'd run into anybody that I knew from the truck scene, hey man, have you ever seen my truck? Is anybody, any word? And every single person I run into would say, man, I have looked for that truck forever. I wanted to try to find it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, every person told me that. So it just kept going on and on for years like that. And my youngest son, which is 11, just absolutely loves the truck from photos.
Okay.
And obviously knows how much I miss the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And my 17-year-old son is the same way. So they've been hounding me about going, Dad, put it on Facebook, put it on Facebook. I'm like, I just refused social media for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So in January of this year, I finally broke down and created a Facebook account because I wanted to see if I could really try to find the truck. And so in January, I created Facebook and started putting a little post out here and there, hey, I really miss this truck. And if anybody sees it, let me know. And, just a lot of comments of people going, man, I really wish I could find that truck, or I miss it, I remember it, which was really overwhelming to me. I had no idea that so many people would remember my truck.
Yeah, there was so much love out there for a truck that, you're thinking, damn, man, it's been a good solid 20 years since it's really hit, on the circuit.
Right. And I'm just like, I was just blown away of how many people would just comment, this is the truck that got me into this. This is why I built my truck. I remember this when I was a kid. Or how many people would say, you probably don't remember me, but when I was in high school, we would come by your shop and just see what's going on, and I remember you building that truck.
So very surreal.
Very surreal. I mean, and this would go on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I really started putting the pressure on a little bit out there and started really trying to connect on Facebook with people that were in the truck scene, or that, obviously were into the scene I was into, or where I think this truck would be.
Mm-hmm.
I was told it was sold. They thought it was sold from Missouri to somewhere in Louisiana. So I thought for sure that it got tied up in hurricanes or something, and, junkyard it's went and crushed.
Yeah, like so many trucks do. We've seen cover trucks. All that stuff happens.
Right. Or pictures of people, I found it, and it's got a tree growing through the engine bay. And,
Yep.
I really did not think I would find it by any means, but I really felt that I needed to try for me and for my kids. Because like I said, I have 5 children, and 3 of them have never seen the truck except for a photograph.
Right, from the magazine and things like old photos that you have.
Right, exactly.
So you basically, this is mind-blowing, right? Not everybody's on social media, and I can appreciate that. Earlier this year, about 26 weeks ago, I see on your Instagram, and you're saying even on Facebook, you make a post, and you kind of reiterated that, hey, looking for this old truck if anybody's seen it. So what happens as far as what you start hearing?
I start hearing a little rumbling of people going, all right, let's see if we can help this guy. There was a guy, I think his name Jason Sandusky on Facebook. He jumped in to start helping, and he thought he had tracked it down in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
So he's looking into it. I'm obviously looking into it. There's a couple people that sent me some leads. One guy said that he had seen the truck in a guy's garage, taken apart, and he said he was restoring it. And he said he even remembered the dust covers hanging on the wall.
Mm.
So obviously at that point I'm getting a little discouraged, but excited because somebody's actually says they put their eyes on it.
Yep. It's like a fugitive, man. They're like, no, that's America's Most Wanted. I know, I saw them.
Right. So it's one of them things, did they really see it? Did they not? But then they started describing some details about the truck that made me think, okay, maybe they did see it.
Mm-hmm.
So while that's going on May 15th at 1:44 in the afternoon, I get a Facebook message from a guy, Rogelio. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. They had 3 pictures of Project Indy, and it said, is this your old truck?
Okay.
And honestly, I fell out of my chair.
And you're like, because you can clearly tell, like, boom, they're fresh photos. You're like, dude, this is it.
Oh yeah, I could tell that this was not a Photoshop. This was not anything, and this was no photo I've ever seen of my truck. Plus, it had obviously different wheels on it, a few telltale signs that told me it was the right truck, but somebody's tampered with it just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I respond to him. Oh my God, yeah, where is it? And he responds back that a friend of his in Monterrey, Mexico, had just sold it a few months back.
So Monterrey, Mexico.
Monterrey, Mexico.
Dude, this is crazy.
Yeah, so the guy that's texting me is in like 2 hours from Houston, Texas.
All right.
So he doesn't speak English.
It's another hurdle each way.
Right. Everywhere I turn is a hurdle. So he tells me that his friend had it for sale a few months ago. I said, can you find out if it's available or what? What's the information?
Mm-hmm.
So he gets back with me and says he sold it to a friend of his that has a big car lot. And the friend of his that owns it now has put it on an auction block with 3 other vehicles. And they got to buy the lot of them. And the high bidder right now is a guy in Spain.
Dude, so the truck is a part of a lot that's for sale. It's in Mexico, and the high bidder is in Spain.
Correct.
Okay.
So obviously we have language barrier, everything. He is the middleman communicating to his friend. Finally get it out of him to get me in touch with his friend so I can, get rid of the middleman to try to start getting this deal figured out.
All right.
So finally at 9:30 at night on May 15th is when I finally made verbal contact with the guy that said he had the truck.
And you're like, you're kind of feeling, probably at this point, I mean, are you like a little relieved that, hey, you're finally getting to the source?
Yes, but I'll tell you what, the anxiety and excitement, stress, everything's really building at that point because, are they going to tell me they want an astronomical amount of money for it that I cannot even begin to afford?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they going to tell me, hey, sorry, it's already in the auction and there's nothing I can do? So I had, obviously a million things going through my mind.
Okay, I'm following.
So they finally communicate. We talked from 9:30 at night to just about 15 minutes to 1 in the morning. Between, you got to keep in mind, we were doing video chats, like video messages back and forth, and audio messages back and forth. But I had to get one of my son's friends from school over to be my translator.
Are you kidding me, dude?
No, he got there at about 11:30 at night, and from 11:30 to basically almost 1, he was translating for me to try to communicate so I could get something figured out on this truck because there was such a language barrier.
Damn, dude. So, but the constant that I'm seeing is like you're not giving up. Like you're like, boom, January comes, you're feeling like, dude, this is within my grasps, right? So then you're like, I'm not giving up.
I don't know what that means.
There you go, brother.
So yeah, I just keep plugging ahead, and we finally get a deal made where I'm gonna send them $500 to hold the truck, and they give me 3 weeks to come and get it.
All right.
And in 3 weeks, when I bring them, I'm gonna bring them cash. They're gonna meet me in Laredo, Texas, with the truck and the title. We're gonna swap, and we're gonna head on our merry ways.
Okay.
Well, if we all know anything, nothing works like the brochure says.
That's it, man.
So I send them the money. Boom, they get it. The very next day, they're putting pressure. So when you bring in the rest of the money? So when are you going to do this? When are you going to come get it? So they do that for a few days. In the meantime, I'm trying to figure out how do I, first of all, come up with this much cash? And second of all, how do I get it out of Mexico? And I'm not going to lie, I paid $12,500 for the truck.
Okay. So you basically, you make a deal with them, you send them $500, and there's a little bit of a gamble, right? They could take the money and run. You're dealing with someone across the, different country. But you're still feeling like, hey, everything is good, a little bit of gamble, $500 isn't $12,500, but you're willing to do it.
Yeah, $500, I figure, we've all pissed that away many times.
100%.
So I figure if I lose it, but I'm not sending all the money.
Yep.
So
perfect.
We're communicating, we're going back and forth. They decide now when I'm, trying to get everything lined out that they don't want to bring it over to Laredo now.
And how far is Laredo from where they were at approximately?
Approximately 2.5 to 3 hours south of Laredo into Mexico.
All right, I gotcha.
Should be 2.5 to 3 hour drive. Should be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going on. In the meantime, I'm calling around trying to figure out, like I said, where to get money at and how can I get it. So I start making phone calls to people I know because here's the deal. I'm in Indiana. I don't speak Spanish. I don't know anything about Mexico. I don't know anything about how the border works. None of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I start making some phone calls, and Boris over in Ohio that does a lot of the Impalas and all that, I called him, and he recommended a guy named Ray that's an exporter. Said, oh, yeah, he can help you, no problem. So I call Ray, leave him a voicemail, and this is how crazy this gets. The guy calls me back, and he's at a Rolling Stones concert in London.
That is insane, dude.
He's in a Coliseum at a Rolling Stones concert in London.
All right.
And he gives me a number of a guy in Texas that does shipping for him as a broker named Javier.
Okay.
So I get a hold of Javier. He lines up a semi to go pick it up. You know, at this point, I just want to get it picked up so I know it's in somebody's possession in the United States.
Yeah, you're like, you're the good majority of the way. You know, you've done a lot of leg work. You're talking 4 months now, give or take, right?
Right.
Okay.
So from the 15th, when I found the truck, I was supposed to have 3 weeks. Well, obviously, they kept putting more pressure on, and it came down to the fact where I had to have it picked up by Saturday, which was Saturday the 26th. So I had 11 days.
Damn.
So I had 11 days to figure out $12,000 and how to get it picked up from Monterrey, Mexico, and brought to Indianapolis.
So, you know, at this point, I can see, and I'm just thinking out loud, you know, you've got pressure on you. You're trying to work your normal day job. You've got your kids. You've got your girl. You know, they're all going, dude, what's this guy doing? He's on the phone all the time. Man, I don't know if the stress, I'll call it stress, is worth it. It's starting to build up at this point, right?
Oh, yes. Anna, she might as well be my wife. We've been together 7 years. She was having enough. Zeke, my son, was there side by side with me. They were both to the point where I had them so stressed out that all of us, we couldn't even be in the same room, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never leave my phone because they would text or call at random times to you know, kind of put pressure on. And the other thing that was going on while this was happening, you know, Anna and Zeke are you know, having a rough time dealing with me. Well, now I got people texting me and messaging me from Mexico that feels like they're wanting to maybe try to steal the truck or hold it hostage because they're starting to call the guy that has it and starting to make some threats. So I have to start deleting some posts.
Damn.
And then I start getting text messages of guys as selfies in front of the truck in Mexico saying, hey, this is a very clean truck.
Are you kidding me, dude?
No.
That's insane.
That even adds even more stress on top of.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still trying to figure this out. So I start making some phone calls for shipping. I got the shipping arranged through Javier. So, okay, now how do I get it to the shipper? Because the shipper will not go to Monterrey. As far as he'll go is Laredo.
And how far is that apart?
That's the 2.5, 3 hours.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I start calling. I call Jeff Davies from Devious Customs.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, asking him if he's got some connections, help. He had some ideas and some friends to help me. So he stepped out and made a couple phone calls, and I kind of used him as plan B.
Mm-hmm.
And I text Casey Scranton from CGS Motorsports. And you know, I'd met these guys all at SEMA, and I knew Jeff through Tito. Tito, I miss you too, buddy.
Mm-hmm. Rest in peace, Courtney.
Yeah. So I text Casey, and he said, yeah, I think I got a guy that can help. So the guy that he sent me to was Ernie Segala from Segala Designs and HCM Carbon.
All right.
And Ernie has a place in San Diego, and he just so happens to have a place in Monterrey, Mexico.
No way, dude. That was like perfect.
I know. He has family, friends, very well connected in Monterrey. So we start talking, chatting it up, trying to figure out how to make this happen. And he says, man, I was told to help you, and this sounds like a really kick-ass deal. He jumped on board, full head of steam, and I mean, this dude never left me hanging. The stuff we went through was unbelievable. So in that, being that said, he got a hold of the people in Mexico that had the truck and took over communications from there because he could speak the language.
Mm-hmm.
And he had friends down there that could literally go and put their eyes on the truck if we needed and help make the transaction. So he comes up with the plan of, all right, let's get the money over here to me. He'll get down there, get people together, and we'll hire his friends and family to pick the truck up and take it to Laredo for us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great, but there was a little issue with transferring all that kind of money around. So that slowed us up. So on Thursday the 24th is when this all really started to, okay, we're going full head of steam. We're going to get this thing right now.
All right. So you're talking May 24th, right?
May 24th. And my goal was I wanted it back here for the Indy 500.
Okay.
I wanted to drive the truck to the Indy 500 for several reasons, but my grandparents are retired from there and lived 4 blocks from there, and there's a brick dedicated to my grandparents in front of the museum at the 500. So I'm very well connected there, and being the month of May and everything, and then what were the odds of 21 years almost to the day I'd have the truck back where I could drive it to the Indy 500.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a big story deal for me. It meant a lot. But so anyway, on Thursday, I send the money to him, and he goes and starts getting his people in line. And then on Friday is when in Mexico they start getting money together down there to go get the truck. We've made the deal. We've got a pickup point in time. The problem was you couldn't get that kind of money out in Mexico because they were afraid of money laundering.
Right, because there's lots of rules and laws and shit about that, especially with stuff that's happening all over the world and shit. I got you.
Right, so the money transaction, getting it out of the bank and doing everything we had to do took quite a bit longer than we expected. So that put us off on schedule just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the people that had the truck did not want to meet at a police station to do the deal. So Ernie, that helped me do all this, just happens to know the chief of police of Monterey.
Dude, then you're in good. You might be in good hands then.
Right, I'm definitely feeling a little better at this point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because you're like, dude, maybe the stars are starting to align now.
Right. It's like, okay, somebody's wanting this to happen. What are the odds that I find a guy that knows several people in Monterey and then can help me get it out of there and is willing to just do it to be a nice guy?
Yeah, because he appreciated the story. He's like, dude, I want to help this guy out. My homie told me I should, so I'm following.
He did not want a dime. He did it just to help.
Just to help out.
Just to help out. He did not want a dime, which is just amazes me for the amount of time that he put into it and effort is just staggering.
So like at this, and I totally agree. So like at this point, like how are things starting to come together?
Well, at this point, we're getting the money out of the bank. We got it together. We have a location point. Now, keep in mind, I say we. I'm still in Indiana. Ernie's in San Diego, and we have friends in Monterrey, Mexico, doing everything for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all communicating on Messenger and three-way chats and all that. So all this whole story is documented on text messages and Messenger and everything.
Yeah,
every bit of this.
For those scoring at home that are going, no way, there's no way. I mean, this could easily be like an hour documentary on YouTube, man. It really could.
Mm-hmm. That was the one thing that I was afraid of, is I didn't want people to think this story was made up.
Right, exactly.
Because there is so many twists and turns, it's absolutely crazy.
Dude, Dateline NBC all the way.
Yeah, and after it all, real quick, after it was all said and done, I finally realized, I do have this all documented. It's all right here in these messages. I kept thinking, man, how am I going to tell people? Well, I had it all right here.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we're got everybody in Mexico. They've got the money out. They're going to the location to meet. Like I said, they did not want to meet at the police station. They wanted to meet at a Burger King, which was obviously we're a little sketchy about all this to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Our guys are taking cash. They did put it into pesos, so 12,000 cash is like 221,944 pesos.
Dude, I would have been walking around like going, dude, man, I got 200 and however many thousand pesos, dude, I'm balling.
Right.
Right.
And looking at it in a stack is pretty staggering, man. It's like, wow, that is a lot of money.
Now, I'm just joking, but are pesos coins? No, I'm just messing around. They sound like coins.
Yeah.
It sounds like coins to me.
It sounded like coins to me too until I seen it. No, it was dollars.
When you're
and
like,
they were in big bundles. So
there you go.
It was pretty awesome. So anyway, at this point, they're going to be going there with as sketchy as everything is. And I said Ernie knew the chief of police. He made a phone call, and they had put 15 undercover police officers with a 500-yard radius of the location 2 hours before the truck was supposed to be there.
So were they doing that to protect the buyer, or did they think, like, is this something out of a Netflix show that they think that something's going down?
They did that to protect our money. The person that we had hired, we didn't know what kind of people had the vehicle.
All right, so that's cool that they were looking out.
They were looking out. We didn't want things to happen. Mainly, we didn't want anybody's safety. You know, that was the main concern. I could give a shit less about the money or the truck. I don't want anybody to get hurt.
Mm-hmm. All right, I feel you.
So they get there, they watch the location, and the deal goes down. And basically, my guy walks up, they hand money, exchange titles, he jumps in the truck, drives off. If you watch online on my YouTube or on my Instagram or my Facebook, you'll see a video of the truck driving away from a Burger King.
Mm-hmm.
That is the guy I bought the truck from, videoing the truck driving away from me and sending me a message going, "Are you ready? Here it comes."
Damn.
And so what they did there is once they pulled around the corner, that you see the truck turn the corner of the building, they went into a secured lot, big, like 10-foot concrete walls with barbed wire around it, and opened the truck up and make sure everything was good. You know, make sure there wasn't nothing crazy, and make sure to drive it down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So everything was good. Police escort the truck out of Monterey onto the interstate to drive to Laredo, and our guy's in the driver's seat driving.
And because of the technology that we have and cell phones and cameras and Facebook and this, like, you basically have this documented. So what's the feeling like now that you're going, dude, you know, let's say you had 3 or 4 or 5 huge monumental tasks, right? Milestones. Now you're like, dude, you're feeling like, okay, we're rolling over the mountain finally, and maybe we're downhill. Yeah,
I'm like, man, this is it. It's finally went down. As far as I'm concerned, it's in my possession. I felt 100% comfortable with the guy that was driving it. I had did a phone interview with him the day before. Have all the respect for him. His name's Carlos. It was just that felt amazing knowing he was in the truck, and then he FaceTimed me while he was driving, getting onto the interstate and telling me about the truck and showing me the interior. You know, and he spoke a little broken English enough that I could, you know, piece it together.
All right.
So he gets on the interstate and he's driving. I'm like, all right, man, I take a deep breath, you know, I'm not going to lie. I got a tear in my eye, thinking, all right, this nightmare is coming home. So, you know, I'm jumping around like a 13-year-old schoolgirl. And then he hangs up, he drives for a little bit, and then I get a call. Something's wrong. Now
you're thinking, is your heart sinking at this point?
Oh, man. Yeah, I would say it was tough hearing that because it was like he didn't say anything except for "we have a problem."
And you're like, Houston, hey, we have a problem, and that doesn't sound very good.
No, because at this point we're still in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, does it mean somebody's tried to jump him? Did he get in a wreck? Did he, you know, I don't know.
All right.
So he FaceTimes me and shows me the left front tire is smoking. Smoking.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a huge groove cut in it. So what had happened is the air ride leaked down, and there's a bolt in the inner fender because this truck still has stock inner fenders in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bolt holding the inner fender in that went down when the truck went down. That bolt went in and just tried to cut itself all the way through the tire while he was driving.
Damn. So this is I think you were saying in the middle of the night.
Yeah, this right now is about let's see. It's about 8:45 in the evening.
All right.
So he finally I have him. I said, "Did you lift the air ride up?" Well, he didn't even know the truck had air ride. When they did the transaction, there was no communication of, "Hey, here's how this works," or that. No, it was more of get the keys and get the hell out of there.
Okay. So yeah, there wasn't any. There's no. Hey, let's teach you a few things.
Right. Yeah, he had no idea. It was grab the keys, jump in, and roll.
All right.
So crazy enough, I said, "All right, well, FaceTime me and show me around the truck, and I want to see if I can figure out where all the air ride is."
Power of technology.
Right. So he shows me. Boom, the air ride is still in the headliner in a billet center console I put in there in 1995. Still in the same place. I'm like, kick ass. So I tell him how to use the air ride. Boom, it lifts up. Good to go. He shuts the door, gets out, checks something, goes to get back in it, and he'd lock the keys in the truck while it's running.
Holy shit. So late at night, it's getting a little later. You get one problem fixed, and you're just like, you must not be able to believe this at this point.
Oh, no. I'm like, man, what? I still can't put it into words because I don't know. It seems like every time I tried to take a step, there wasn't a step there.
Got it.
And so this is at 9:30 at night now is when he's locked the keys in the truck, still in the same place that he was where we were working on the air ride. So luckily enough, somebody along the way had taken all the stereo out of the bed of the truck. Well, there was a speaker box in the bed that has two 5-inch round ports that are made through the rear extended cab seat that are holes. It's actually stitched around it and everything. Well, with that box not being there, that hole goes all the way into the cab. So he got some coat hangers and laid in the bed of the truck and reached all the way up to the door handle and popped the door open.
And he got it open.
And then he sent me a voice recording that said, "It's no fun being outside the truck when it's running. It's like she's laughing at you."
You're like, dude, this whole story's laughing at me.
Yeah, exactly. I said, if you had any idea, man.
Dude, okay. So, all right, now you're like, everything's going to be good to go.
Right. You're in the truck. You know it's got air ride. It lifted up. He's showed me driving down the road. The truck sounds like it's running good, riding good. He's not bouncing all over the place, nothing crazy. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, at 11 o'clock after driving, he calls me, and now it won't air up anymore. It's been leaking down, and he's been airing it up, leaking down and airing it up. Well, at 11
so whatever leak is there, it's getting worse.
Right, either getting worse or what we found out was the air compressor quit working.
Gotcha.
So now that's why he doesn't have any more air in the air tank. Well, luckily at 11 o'clock when it started going down, he pulled into a gas station, so he was able to get by an air hose at the gas station. So I have him take his phone around and set it in the engine bay and hit switches. And so as I'm trying to listen for air leaks to kind of problem solve, and I have him take his phone and lay underneath the back of the truck, and I said, get under there and show me there should be an air tank underneath there. Well, sure as shit, he lays in there and shows me, and the same air tank I put in there, 95, is still there, and it still has a Schrader valve on the side of it so you can fill it full of air.
Damn. So, dude, 20-plus years, still rock solid. The suspension held up all the time, all the air stuff. Boom.
Yeah.
So you kind of feel like, all right, boom, another one. I mean, you're putting out fires like by the hour, dude.
Right. So, 11, he's out of air. Show him how to air the tank up to get air in it, lift the truck up, then put air back in it so he's got reserve in the tank. Boom, he rolls on, and about 12:30, it breaks down again. He's 30 miles from the Mexican border, the Mexico to U.S. border.
In the fucking middle of the night, dude.
Just after midnight, 12:30, he runs out of air, no gas stations around, in the middle of nowhere. He FaceTimes me, and it is pitch black for as far as you can see. And he's alongside the road.
It's like all he's got is his phone camera, I'm sure, for light.
Right. And I thought he was traveling with somebody. He was traveling by himself.
Solo.
Yes. So we have to now keep in mind Ernie is coordinating through all this. I'm talking through him to them, so it takes a while to communicate, and then we text on the three-way stuff and use the translator as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
So at 12:30 on now this would be basically Saturday morning. I have to call a tow truck in Mexico from Indiana.
What do? You just Google the number?
Well, I went through Ernie, and Ernie got a hold of somebody down. I don't know how this dude did all this, but got a hold of somebody down there, and I was able to PayPal the money to them to pay for the tow truck.
Damn. So, again, power of technology. You're able to, the old days would have been Western Union. Hey, can you send me some cash? Here,
right.
You make the contact, right? You got the connection. You go, hey, you got PayPal. Who doesn't have that? Boom, you send the money. I'm sure, a little bit of talk there about, hey, do you take PayPal and this and that? So
right. How
did things progress from there? I mean, again, this is like the 50th hurdle that you're having to jump over.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. So we call the Ernie gets it all lined up, PayPal the money, boom. At 2:30 in the morning, the tow truck finally shows up. Well, what I thought was a tow truck. A Chevy standard cab, short bed, full size, just like Project Indy, with a tow dolly.
A tow dolly, like that's going to do anything.
Well, that's all we had.
Well, you know what? And you made, you had lemons, and you're like, well, you know what? Are we going to just give up, or are we going to keep going?
Oh, like I said, I don't know what that means. So they figure out a way to get the front of this truck on a tow dolly and strap down. And at about 3:20 in the morning is when they finally started rolling. So it took them an hour to get this thing loaded on a tow dolly.
And they did.
Yeah, and they did. So at 3:20, they get rolling. They're about 30 miles from the border. The guy that we had hired to drive it over the border for us is like, man, it's too late. I'm not doing it this time.
Because you
now
probably
I gotta find some.
Yeah, because you probably have to wait in the line and things like that. I think, you have to go through the normal, all that deal. And sometimes with truck drivers and all that, it can be a ways.
Yeah. So the guy we had hired to do it wasn't available. So we had to bribe the guy with the tow dolly.
To bribe him. I like it, man.
So he was like, well, it is already loaded and, for the right amount of money. So the right amount of money was $100.
All right. So you're like, all right, it's $100, but it's not like he's going, hey, give me 5,000 or I'm going to trash your shit on the side of the road.
Right. It could have been way worse. And come to find out, there was a fee for him to cross and all that, and that was all taken out of the 100. So it's not like he made much money.
Mm-hmm.
But he did a job, and did a damn good job. And his name was Carlos also, by the way.
All right. For those scoring at home, we got a couple of Carloses.
Right. So he's rolling. He says he'll take it over the border. He'll drop it off at the address I have lined up with the shipper. My truck's supposed to be there waiting. He was supposed to be there at 5 on Friday. So here we are, almost 12 hours late, but he's not answering his phone. The trucker that's supposed to receive my truck.
And this is in what, Laredo he's supposed to meet?
Yeah, he's in Laredo. He was supposed to be like 3/4 of a mile away from the border.
All right.
So they were supposed to just drive in, drop the truck, give him title, roll on.
So as far as you know, this guy's like, dude, I mean, this is the middle of the night. This isn't what I agreed to, whatever, because you had some delays, and you're starting to sweat bullets a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy's like, I got family. I'm not dealing with this right now. It's too late. Sorry about you. So here it is, going on 4 in the morning, and the Mexicans that are driving it over, they need a place to put it. So Javier, the broker that lined up the shipper, said his uncle knew of a place that I could put it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he sends me his address, so I Google it. I'm like, that's an apartment complex. He's like, yeah, it'll be all right there. I'm like, what? Well, at this point, I didn't have any options. So the directions were to put it in this driveway at this apartment number, and we'll be there to get it here in a few hours.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it rolls over the border into the United States at 4:50 in the morning.
Damn.
So it only took him I think he said it took him 15 minutes to wait in line and get over the border.
So maybe in the middle of the night was a good time because there's not as many truckers on the road.
Right. So 4:50 in the morning, boom, we're on U.S. soil at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I have nowhere to put it. So still freaking out. So he's driving to this location where the apartment complex is and blows a tire on the tow dolly.
So okay, I got you. Now you're like, dude, this is just this is just too many hurdles. There's no way this truck's coming home.
Right. It's like it's not meant to be. I mean, it's like how many more times can I deal with what feels like disappointment?
Yeah, no one person should have to deal with this much. I don't care how much you hate them, how much you love them. I mean,
right.
This is like getting a little bit crazy.
And keep in mind, this is we're going on 48 hours here.
Mm-hmm.
So I was when this all was going down, I was up 48 hours straight.
Damn.
Because that's how long it took. Communications, everything from that time to when I could finally pass out and know that the truck was somewhere was 48 hours.
Mm.
So he blows a tire on the tow dolly. He does have a spare, which is great. Changes it, and he had to go 3/4 of a mile is where he was going to drop the truck off.
So he was close.
He was close. So I knew, all right, we're on U.S. soil, but we're alongside the road. I do have a custom truck on a tow dolly with Mexican license plates, being towed by a truck with Mexican license plates. So your mind starts running. So he finally gets that done, and he gets it to the apartment complex at about 5:30 in the morning. And I, gave him all the instructions where to put it, all that. He sends me a picture of it and said, I put it over here next to this building in the shade. And I put the keys in the gas door and the title in the glove box. Got to go.
So he was like, hey, I did my part. I'm out.
Yeah, I got to get back. But the problem is he didn't put it in the right place. He put it next to a building where he wanted to instead of an exact address in a driveway.
And you're thinking, at this point,
shit.
Yeah, it could easily get towed. I mean, we know how Texas is with towing and all that shit.
Yeah.
That's bad news bears, man.
Stolen. If anybody knows custom trucks, gas doors, the first place they're going to look for a door popper or something, and there's the keys hanging out in there.
Mm.
So I'm freaking.
All right.
So from 5:30 in the morning until 1:30 in the afternoon, the truck sat abandoned in an apartment complex. That was how long it took me to find somebody to go through roundabout somebody to find somebody that could go and look at the truck.
So
the problem was,
yeah, and you basically use some of your connections around that area to say, hey, dude, I'm in urgent need. I need someone around Laredo. Can you hook me up? Is that how it went down?
Yeah, it kind of went like that. Yeah. Hey, I need a place to put this truck for a couple days till I can get somebody from Indiana down there to pick it up. Since my shipper didn't show up, nobody to pick up the truck, nowhere to store it. Can somebody store it? Can somebody go look at it, make sure it hadn't been stolen? Just anything. I need some sort of communication because at this point I have nobody on the ground where my truck is.
Mm-hmm.
So finally I get back a hold of Javier that actually that had the shipper lined up. He said his uncle lived a mile from there. So he got his uncle on the phone and his uncle went down there and the truck was there. And that was at 2:30 in the afternoon. So from 5:30 to 2:30, it sat there with nobody looking at it, didn't know anything about it. At 2:30, he shows up, looks at it, and at that time, the apartment complex people were out looking at it, wanting to have it towed because they thought it was an abandoned vehicle with Mexico plates on it.
Right, so that's what I was thinking. Kind of bad news right there is that they're going to see, the plates are potentially expired. They're not from Texas. All that sounds, that's pretty much bad news right away.
Yeah, and we're with 3/4 of a mile to a mile from the border, so we're not exactly in the best part of town.
Okay, yeah, I gotcha.
So he says that he could take the truck and hold on to it for me until I can get there, but the problem is the truck won't air up. That's why we had to have it towed.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically just drove the tow dolly out from underneath of it and let her lay on the ground. So now I got to try to tell this guy how to air the truck up so he can drive it.
So you basically, so you're gonna give him a quick walkthrough so he can get the truck, because remind the listeners, it's in Laredo. Where is it supposed to go? Like, where the next trip is from Laredo to where?
Indianapolis.
That's what I thought.
So that's where it was coming, was straight from Laredo to me. But like I said, the shipper didn't show up, so now I have to talk this guy into how to lift the truck up and how to get it to his place so he can hold it until I can get a shipper lined up to go get it. So the problem is in Laredo, and I found out in Mexico, nobody has air compressors. Like,
what the fuck?
Like, air is like, I can't believe how many people said, "Oh no, we don't have air. We don't air." No,
it's like, dude, that's like asking people, like, do you have just like gold flowing through your rivers? It's like, no, we don't have that. It's like, dude, air, you breathe it. All we need is to compress it.
Right. I just need an air compressor. I even said, how about an air storage tank that you would air your tire up? You know, just fill it full of air and go air your tire up.
No, we don't have that.
No, didn't. So I even said, go to the auto parts store and get the people on the phone. I'll buy it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll buy an air compressor. I'll buy a tank, whatever we need. The problem was they couldn't find anything out there that would put enough PSI out. They couldn't get over 100 PSI.
I see. Yeah, and for the truck, a little bit of weight and whatnot, you got to be able to air it up. So, like, what happens at this point? I mean, it's just got to be, again, this is another, like, a little nightmare that you're having.
Yeah, so it takes till 6:30 that night before somebody gets there. The guy, Sergio, that went there to get it, he's the uncle of ViAir. Sergio called a friend of his that had an air compressor, but he had to wait for him to get off work. And then he had to wait for him to go home and load it and drive 2 hours to where the truck was. So he took the air compressor out of his garage, like we would use to work on cars, let it build up full of air, loaded it in the back of his truck, strapped it down, and drove 2 hours to put air in the truck.
So he basically does what he has to do to keep going. And then at this point, he's still from Laredo, minus 2 hours all the way to Indy. That's still a good, day drive?
Yeah. So Sergio is only a mile from where it is, though. So he airs it up. He takes it to his house. And if you see on my Facebook, you see a video of my guy I sent to pick it up. They slide this gate open, and there sits the truck. That's actually in Laredo, Texas, at an absolute stranger's place that took it there on Saturday afternoon and parked it behind that gate and said, it'll be here. When you get here, you have nothing to worry about. And he showed me this thing had like a 10-foot concrete fence, just like in Mexico, with barbed wire around it, around his whole backyard of his house.
When I first saw the video, I thought that was from Mexico for a minute.
It's a mile from Mexico.
Yeah, not far.
Yeah. So that guy put it in there, boom, left it. I sent my friends Mike and Tammy Shaw from Indy. They jumped in their dually and flew down there as fast as they could. And they got there on Tuesday morning, And I had rented a U-Haul trailer down there for them to pick up and put the truck on to bring to Indy. So he gets down there to do that. Obviously, that's a pretty big truck. Shouldn't fit on a U-Haul trailer. So he built some ramps to get the front wheels up over the edge of the front of the trailer where he needed it, and was able to flatten the front tires, which then put the center line of the trailer, center line of the rear wheels.
Okay.
So we're talking, you have a half inch either way, and the thing's going to be off the trailer, causing damage and all that. But he strapped it down good, and they busted ass back. And they did stop at Gas Monkey on the way back, and Crew Cut was down there, and Gas Monkey actually pulled Crew Cut out of the shop to park next to mine on the trailer so we could take some photos of it.
Yeah, we'll have to share that. We'll have to reshare that photo. What I think is crazy is, you've heard, the homie Carrie Bewley talk for a while about this amazing, almost 20-year long endeavor, right, to get this truck back, and you do. It seemed like once it got there, you got the air in it, that things from there, you got it home, and everything went fine in the U.S. as far as the trip.
Yeah, everything, once it got on U.S. soil and my guys, Mike and Tammy, got their hands on it, everything was smooth sailing from that point. And that's the first time I was able to take a breather or relax at all was knowing it was in their possession. Because I knew once Mike had it in his hands, nobody was getting it.
Yeah, that you were good to go. So
I sent the heat after it.
Yeah, there you go. Now, when you're making the logistics, and he's like, "Hey, I'm 4 hours from home. I'm 2 hours from home." What was it like? Like, where did you go? Was it at your house that he pulls up? You have a smile. Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, there was, Anna and Zeke and several friends around. They knew they were keeping us posted where they were. And what was crazy is I started getting some postings or messages on Facebook and pictures of it on a trailer on the interstate close to my house from random people that seen it. Hey, I just seen Project Indy on trailer. And the last post I seen it was a mile from my house. And I'll be honest, I was standing up in the yard of the house and everybody was down in the street waiting to see it come down the road. Man, it's tearing me up right now a little bit. That was tough for me. I'm not going to lie. I shed several tears. I did a lot of pacing around the front yard. It was pretty amazing knowing what I had just went through, what I just put my family through. To see it all come together and actually make it, because so many people doubted, so many people questioned, what are you doing? Why would you do this? This is just crazy. So to see it all really happen, like I said, give up is not in my vocabulary. I don't know what that means. So when I get focused on something, it could be dangerous.
Well, we're a lot alike in that respect. I think, to sum it all up to me is, some people look at us and they say, man, why don't you guys grow up? Why are you still on the lowriders, mini trucks, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
But, it goes back to that old Courtney/Wyatt Strange quote. And, it's an amazing one. It was recently reshared, and you mentioned him earlier.
Yeah.
And it really just kind of reinforced that, hey, we, some people look down upon us because we love trucks and mini trucking, but this is who we are. This is our culture. This is our lifestyle, right? For the tie-in. And I know, Carrie, that, it means a lot to you. The story is unbelievable, but how has it been now? I think you did a little bit of maintenance to the truck, not a lot. So we'll talk about the condition of the truck, but how has it been taking it to the few shows that you've taken it to?
Well, man, I'll tell you, the response was so overwhelming. I really don't know how to put into words. So many people came to me and said, this is the reason I built my truck. I remember seeing this when I was a kid. I cannot believe how many people that truck influenced or had any kind of value to anybody besides me. I never looked at it like that. And to hear that from people still is staggering. It's I don't know how to respond to it. It's the biggest thing that for me is seeing my kids enjoy it. And then to see these people talk to my kids, like we were at Camp and Drag over the weekend, and I had to work on Friday, and luckily Camp and Drag's only an hour from where we live. Mm-hmm. So I drove back. We went Thursday night. I drove back to work on Friday and left Anna and my son Zeke there, mm-hmm. and they cruised the truck around all day Friday. And my son said, "Dad, there's all these people yelling my name and saying, 'Good job' and 'Awesome, Zeke.'" And he's like, "Dad, I have no idea who these people are." And I said, "It's because when you were a kid, you were at the shop. You were growing up around. Everybody remembered you. And now everybody seeing him drive the truck was just, that made it for me. To be able to share this with my kids and for them to be able to enjoy it and my son to drive around with a smile on his face, that's worth every bit of it to me."
Well, man, we salute you. I salute you. It's a journey that not a lot of us get to go through when you think about something that we sell that's near and dear to our heart. A lot of us will pass things over to the next owner because we're looking to buy a house or, build upon a business or, we're having kids and things. And I talked to the homie Vic earlier, and we talked a little bit about some of these iconic trucks, especially a lot of mini trucks that there was one that I posted photos. It was at a show like in 91. It's white and blue, extended cab with a topper, ground effects. The truck stayed apparently indoors for, good 25 years, and then someone buys it. We're getting to the age where this stuff was cool to us when we were kids. It's, younger adults, that type of thing, and it's still awesome to us now. And I'm just really glad that, you took a little bit of time to share the story with us, man.
I appreciate it. And no matter what hot rods I've done or worked on or been part of or cool car, at the end of the day, the mini trucks, and this is the lifestyle I've always lived, I've always believed in, and that's what I always go back to. It's true passion. Most of us don't have money to build these kind of trucks, but we have the desire and the go-get attitude to make it happen. And I think that's what the world's missing nowadays that we had back then. And the one thing I was trying to explain to my kids is when I built that truck, I didn't have internet, I didn't have computers, I didn't have nothing. So to find all those parts, source all those parts, make all those connections and build the truck and get it out to SEMA and do what we did was very hard to do back then.
Yeah, it's a lot of networking it was. And like you mentioned, a lot of the connections that we made, even you as a business owner, it was thumbing through magazines.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's definitely a different world.
Yeah, and going to shows. That was the only way I could meet anybody in person. Nobody came to Indiana for anything but the U.S. Nationals and the Indy 500.
That's right, man.
So if I wanted to experience any of this stuff, I had to go places because it wasn't coming to me. So, what better place than West Coast, man? That's where we would go back to.
The West Side. So let me ask you this. A lot of guys are probably wondering, and the chicas that are listening, we talked a little bit about the people that have given the good word on Facebook and at shows. What was the truck? I asked you, we talked a little bit the other night on the phone. What was the condition of the truck? Because I think it really reinforces that your work was really on point.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is one of the really exciting things to me was to really see the truck in person and realize how it lasted, how it held up. Remember, I built the truck with 80 miles on it, and this weekend it turned over 89,000 miles.
Damn.
And when I sold it in 2000, it had 56,000 miles on it.
Wow.
So, they didn't drive it a lot, but keep in mind, it has been in Mexico since 2007 is what I found out. So it was in that heat and all that down there for a long time. The condition is amazing. I can't believe it. Nobody has repainted the truck. Nobody has re-cleared it. Nothing. It does have some bumps and bruises on it, some dings and dents. Nothing crazy. I'm going to try to do some paintless dent removal on some of it, but I'm not going to paint the truck because it held up so well. I mean, there's no bodywork cracked out. There's no bodywork swelling, shrinking, none of that. I mean, they literally just changed the wheels and tires. They put a different hood on it. They put a different steering wheel on it. They took the stereo out of it completely and all the bed interior. And then somebody put a different little kind of janky bag set up in the rear. But other than that, I've only washed it. I have not buffed it. I haven't waxed it. I haven't done anything. So any photos you see of it, I've wanted to leave it like it was so people could realize that I didn't go in and try to restore this thing to make it look like it was better than it was or whatever. I mean, the whole windshield has a crack all the way across it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's delaminating around the sides. And I've left that in there for right now because before I freshen the truck up, I wanted people to really see what it was.
Like a time capsule.
Yeah, I mean, all the tweed interior inside and the dash, like I said, the billet headliner, the billet console and headliner has my air ride in it that I put in it in 95. All the Empire billet aluminum stuff is still all in the dash everywhere. Trench trick upholstery did the interior in that thing, and it's held up amazing. All the seats, everything are still great. It shows wear here and there, believe me, but not what you would think for 23 years old.
Yeah, definitely not. And, when you say Empire Billet, we remember all those Truckin ads, and a lot of that stuff is gold now. I mean, if you ever see it, I know there's a homie from R.A., Florida down south. He loves that Empire, the billet pieces, and it's crazy to me that, one, you were passionate enough. I mean, if you can't hear Carrie's passion, you had that. you had the dedication, you had the hustle. A lot of that was instilled in you from your pops and your uncle and your family. And you really went after it, dude. And it's a story that I wanted people to hear on Our Lifestyle, the podcast. I never had met you. I saw the story unfold. I was like, man, I know the name. We talked a little bit on Instagram. And then fast forward to now, it's been a little over 26 weeks, I think. When I looked on Instagram, it was, January, then, you get the truck back, was the last day of May, and then you fast forward to you've already taken it to a few shows, so I know you're stoked.
Yes, I've put ball joints in it. I did fuel filter, plugs, wires, things like that, but I didn't have to do anything major to it. The interesting thing is I put new airbags in the front of it, and when I took those out, they were still the same bags I put in at 95.
And some people say bags don't last.
Right. There you go. They've got 89,000 miles on them.
Forget about it. That might be a record, dude. I mean, it could be, besides that, the big rig truckers, but for a mini trucker / our culture, dude, almost 100,000 miles. What?
Yeah. And still all quarter-inch airline, one compressor, one tank with manual valves like that are on the side of the seat of a semi, the plastic, no electronics in it whatsoever except for the air compressor.
Insanity, bro. Well, let me ask you this. I think it would be cool if the truck took on and, there's lots of opportunity, right? I know it's only a few months away. It could be another SEMA truck, 20 years later. I think it would be cool, like if a company like ViAir or some of the air suspension guys out there stepped up and maybe tried to say, hey, let's turn this into a thing where, hey, what if this truck was refeatured, in either All Time Low magazine or, one of these other publications that might step up and say, dude, you've got a story. They could put it in print. And I could see that happening, homie.
Well, I'm definitely down for that. I would love to have this thing at SEMA this year or next year. That would be the third time it's been to SEMA. Like I said, last time was in '99. The vintage stuff is obviously popular right now, so I would say I'm vintage, I guess, with all this.
Dude, you were vintage.
I know. I would really love to update the suspension, wheels, tires, air ride stuff for sure. And I really want to throw a little more horsepower under the hood. It was something I always wanted to do. But back with the business and everything, that just wasn't in the cards. So, being the Indy themed and all that, I think it needs a little horsepower behind it. I'd love to do a turbo setup or a Whipple supercharger or something, Paxton, something on it I think would be really cool. But right now, I'm all ears. I would love to have some companies jump in because I would love marketing it. And if anybody remembers the truck, then obviously it's stuck with their head for a long time. Let's keep it rolling.
I concur. And, dude, for those folks out there listening, Carrie ran a big business. You mentioned the 100,000 square foot shop earlier, 30-plus employees. You've seen all facets of it. As we kind of wind down here, right, we told this awesome story. What's just for the listeners, like what's the kind of job that you have? A guy that's done all this and you were able to reacquire the truck. What's something that you do as far as a 9 to 5?
Yeah, I wish it was 9 to 5.
That's a trick question.
I kind of manage production manager / estimator at a collision body shop. I closed up the business 10 years ago when I went through a divorce and, like I said, 5 kids. There was a lot of things out of my control that I just couldn't do anymore. Mm-hmm. And, so we did close the business. And now, honestly, the last 2 shows I'd been to with the truck just recently are the first time I've ever been to a show as a spectator.
Wow. I never really thought about it like that. Because you told me the other night on the phone, like you took a little bit of a break, you went through many of us do trials and tribulations of life. So, you really did take a little bit of a break.
Yeah, I've really stepped away from the scene for about 10 years. And then all of a sudden this month I'm back. So a big change. Like I said, and going as a spectator. I've always had a business. I've always had either a commercial booth or, when you have all these vehicles around you, everybody wants to talk business all the time, which I don't mind. But now being away from it 10 years and then going back as a spectator is pretty amazing. getting to see all this from a different view is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I have more time to spend with the people around me, my family, at shows than I ever have. You know, because when you have a business, you get to the show and then you're drug away in a million different directions, and you don't get to spend time with the people you went with.
It's a different situation by all means. There's a lot of people that hustle every day for their business and whatnot, and you brought up a very valid point that a lot of the business owners don't get an opportunity to take a breath and sit back and kick back a little bit and really enjoy cruising into the show, laying the ride out or parking it and just enjoying with the family. I know it's two totally different opposites, and a very valid point, Kerry.
Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest changes I'm dealing with at the moment. But on the other hand, it's been kind of like that because it's been an overwhelming response with the truck. Everybody wants to talk about it, and everybody wants to hear the story and see it, and which I just love telling it, and I love showing the truck. It just means so much to us. And to see everybody else's excitement. I mean, this weekend at Camp and Drag, I really believe that there was people coming up to me and talking to me that were just as excited as I was.
That's a good feeling.
That's so crazy. And when I found the truck, the other response, when I found it and I had to try to figure out money, I can't tell you how many people text me or message me photos of checks made out to me that said, it's here if you need it. And I mean, people I haven't talked to in a long time.
And a lot of that goes back to the type of business owner that you were. A lot of shops, whether it be suspension, paint, body, custom interiors, a lot of these guys put their heart and soul into builds, and they don't make a lot of money on them and stuff. So, a lot of that I really think is some karma that, people saying, hey, dude, listen, man, you helped me back in the day. I know you're a good guy, and that's why people were kind of opening their checkbook, if you will, to you.
It was something I definitely did not expect. Over the years of business, business owners out there know there's two sides to every story. And, people say things, they don't really know what's going on. All I know is at the end of the day, I gave a shit about everybody, every person, every employee, every customer. And I made mistakes. I was never perfect, man. I started this business, really pushing ahead when I was in high school. I didn't go to school for business. All I had was passion and a set of brass balls I threw over my shoulder every day and got up and got to work and took a whole bunch of chances. And that's it. That's the honest truth. I didn't have a bank loan. I didn't have a line of credit. I didn't even have a credit card. Everything I ever did was cash, and I worked hard for it. I didn't have handouts.
Just a straight hustler. And I think what you said a minute ago, a lot of people aren't able to, take a breath and say, hey, I made a mistake, or hey, I was wrong. And that's one of the first things I try to do just as life advice to people, that when I make a mistake or I forget something or whatever, hey, I'm not going to be the guy that is going to make 50 excuses, And sometimes,
right.
Hey, we all have little hiccups and things here and there. But,
yep.
For you were able to, recognize the past, move ahead. And, that's probably, I guess, in the grand scheme of this whole karma thing, they call it, that, a lot of good stuff came your way. Maybe the guy up above, threw you some more curveballs, trying to get this truck back into, the States and then ultimately up to that area. But I think it showed that you got a hustle, you got a determination, and I salute you, Kerry.
I really appreciate that. That means a lot. And that's all I know is if you can't shake my hand and mean what you say, then that doesn't mean anything. And that goes for me too. And, I'm still old school. Handshake meant a lot. If I gave you my word, I meant it. There's a lot of things, I'm sure there's people out there that aren't happy with me. I've heard from some of them, but on the other hand, I did everything I could. And as all I know is I was passionate about what I did, and I was wanting to do it right. And it doesn't work on everything. Businesses go in business and go out of business every day. But I kept it as long as I could, and I gave it passion, and I never half-assed anything. And I can lay my head on the pillow and think we were doing it right. After seeing this truck for 23 years, the way it looks, I feel confident that what we sold was the right product.
Love it, dude. I really do. And, you thanked a lot of people, but did you want to kind of just maybe sum it up to your to the listeners? Go through a couple more of the names or anyone else that you want to sum up as far as, the thanks, man.
Well, definitely the first person I got to thank is my wife, basically Anna. She has been through with me 7 years, and I'll tell you, it's been a rocky road. But this truck was a rocky road. It put a lot of stress on our relationship, and we came through with a star. So that worked out great. I also want to thank my kids, Zeke, Asa, Amelia, Isaiah, Emma. They all stood by my side, helped me with everything. Anna's daughter, Jasmine, same thing. They were all right there. Mm-hmm. And really Ernie and Carlos and Sergio, Javier, all these guys, Tammy, Mike, nobody wanted any money. The only money I spent on transporting that truck was the fees for tolls, food, gas, whatever it was. Not one person wanted a dime for their time.
And you don't see that a lot in this society. People want to genuinely help people out.
And we're talking people in the United States, people in Mexico, every bit of it. It put a whole new perspective on humanity for me dealing with this. Most of these people that helped me have never met me in person, don't know a thing about me, but they just wanted to help. And they showed it they all busted their ass. They stayed up for days. Carlos rode a bus back from Laredo to Monterey at 4:00 in the morning. Crazy. He's the one that drove my truck.
Crazy, yeah. I mean, most people, you couldn't even pay someone to get on a bus, but let alone do what he did. You know what I mean? Right.
And without a complaint, every single person went way over and above. And Junior is the guy that had it in Mexico. And he honored his word to me. He did everything he said he was going to do. That man sent me pictures of his kids, everything, trying to give me a comfort level. So I got to thank these people and they did all this for nothing. So I don't want them to go unnoticed because they all did I couldn't do it without them. I couldn't have got my truck back without all these people.
Hey, man, love the story. And I will tell everyone out there, I'm an Instagram junkie. You can look up Carey Bewley on Facebook, as he mentioned, Carey, and then it's Bewley. So just go on Instagram, type in Bewley. You'll see the iconic Truckin cover issue right there. And then when you start to look through his photos, you'll get a chance to see some of the ones that we're going to share, of course. The truck is iconic. It has a very cool checkered paint job on it. It's got some orange and kind of purples and blacks and whites, if you will. I mean, just a super, super awesome truck, and I don't think it could have went back into the hands of someone any better, bro. It's been a lot of miles. It's been a lot of heart, sweat, determination, but you got a chance to tell the story, man, and we're happy for you.
I can't thank you enough. I have wanted to get this out there and thank these people and let everybody understand that passion is what made me want this thing back. The want to share it with my family, my kids, the history. I think of Tito, I think of Sean, I think of all of us that are getting older. These trends are still out there, and the auto body and mechanic industry is a dying breed. Nobody wants to work with their hands anymore. If they can't do it on a computer, they don't want to do it. So if we can share some history and teach these kids some things and give them a passion, that's what it's all about.
Hey, I could not agree more. And for anybody that follows Chip Foose on Twitter or Instagram, there was a famous little meme that's going around, and I think it's Chip's son, and I'll quote it. I'm looking at it now. It was shared earlier today. Quote, "The biggest crime happening in America is the fact that they've pulled all these shop classes out of schools. Kids today, their dream isn't to build something, it's to buy something." End quote. You kind of talked about that. That's Chip Foose, and that's really what it comes down to. But hey, thank you so much. What I would tell any company out there, whether it be a bag suspension company, someone maybe with a supercharger, any kind of parts that you want to help Carey Bewley out, get a hold of him. You can get a hold of us as well. We'd happy to make the connection. I think what would be very iconic is if that truck could somehow get back to SEMA, whether it be 2018 or 2019, nice little refresh, and maybe Truckin Magazine will get on board and do something. If not, there's other publications out there, including All Time Low magazine. Maybe that's another avenue to tell this story. But, Kerry, thank you so much. Anything else that you want to share with the Airhead Nation?
Just want to let everybody know that Project Indy will be at Battle in Bama in May, for sure.
Well, Craig Rowley, good dude. He's a hustler. And I would say, man, You're going to have a great time. It's not that far for us. I look forward to seeing this truck, one that I grew up on, reading about and looking at in Truckin magazine. Cannot wait to see it in person, homie.
Yeah, thank you, man. I can't wait to show it off. It's still exciting every time. I smile every time I walk past it.
Hey, that's Real Deal Holyfield. It's CareyBewley on Instagram. Make sure you follow Carey Bewley. You'll get a kick out of all the photos that we share, including the Truckin mag. I've got it over there in the archives. And we just thank you for your time, brother.
Hey, thank you, man. I really appreciate all the help.
I just want to say we out here. Y'all have a good one.
Grand opening, grand closing. Goddamn your manhole, crack the can open again. Who you gonna find open a hand with no pen? Just draw inspiration. Who you gonna see you can't replace him with cheap imitations of these generations? Hardcore, do you want more? Cook and roll with the Brooklyn boys. So for one last time, I need y'all to roll. Yeah. Now what the hell are you waiting for? After me, there should be no more. So for one last time, nigga, make some noise. What the hell are you waiting for? Look what you made me do. Look what I made for you. Knew if I paid my dues, how will they pay you? When you first come in the game, they try to play you. Then you drop a couple of hits, look how they wait to you. From Marcy to Madison Square, to the only thing that matters is just a matter of years. As fate would have it, J status appears to be at an all-time high. Perfect time to say goodbye. When I come back like Jordan, we're in the 4-5. It ain't to play games with you, it's to aim at you. Probably maim you. If I owe you, I'm blowing you to smithereens. Cocksucker, take one for your team. And I need you to remember one thing. I came, I saw, I conquered. From record sales to sold out concerts. So motherfucker, if you want this encore, I need you to scream till your lungs are sore.